If there's one thing that seems to connect so many of the cultural pathologies of our day, it's the attack on the vulnerable. And nobody is more vulnerable than a human baby in the womb who is completely dependent on his or her mother. Yet we have an entire social and political movement in America that makes the ability for the mother to kill that child the highest goal of politics. Leftists bring drag queen story hour and transition closets into schools, a place where children are separated from their parents. Western countries make it increasingly possible to euthanize the elderly and chronically ill. There is an entire underground industry devoted to luring and enslaving young women and children in order to move them around as money-making human cargo to fulfill the demented desires of the victimizers. In all of these cases, the most vulnerable among us are the ones preyed upon, and we perhaps shouldn't be surprised that we've arrived at this point. An evolutionary worldview teaches us that the vulnerable have little value. In fact, they perhaps even hold us back. Babies take a lot of time and effort to raise. Caring for elderly parents can sometimes be costly and heartbreaking. Our value, the Darwinian view tells us, is in what we can do, how productive we are, our usefulness. We become mere machines to be used or discarded at will. But a worldview, informed by God's own word, teaches us that each individual human being, from conception to death, is an infinitely valuable creature imprinted with the image of God. We don't become valuable by doing, and we don't lose our value when we become infirm. The infinite value is there simply because God created us human. Jesus brings this point home in one of his sermons. Speaking of the day of judgment, he tells his hearers, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." One of the great ironies of our satanic age is that it's often those who claim to care most about the vulnerable and the defenseless who are actually the greatest danger to the least of these. Under the banner of love for humanity, they promote child sacrifice, gender confusion, and bodily mutilation among teenagers, and the euthanizing of the elderly. But they, and we, should all remember that however we treat the vulnerable is how we are ultimately treating Christ. And a just and holy God is keeping watch.